with the meeting for
I
tonight.
didn't even want to stop and get close to him.
Okay, so calling the meeting to order. And so I want to go over a brief report on what we've been doing for the past month. And first up, I want to talk about about SB 93. That's Christine Kehoe's legislation to stop Grantville-style abuse of redevelopment law, and that means taking money out of redevelopment project areas and throwing it at other areas for no good purpose within the original area. And that legislation, where that stands right now, it went through the state Senate local committee unanimously. Vote was 5-0. And the supporters of that legislation are American Federation of State and County and Municipal Employees, AFL-CIO, California Rural Legal Assistance Foundation, the Grantville Action Group,
Never heard of it.
Council Member Donna Fry, Council Member Marty Emerald, Council Member Sherry Leitner, Western Center on Law and Poverty, and the only opposition is California Redevelopment Association. Let's see, and I want to go over one thing that Senator Kehoe's office sent me was the Senate Local Government Committee's report on SB 93, and they actually had a very interesting overview of the Grantville situation, and they talked about how the county sued the city because they felt that it didn't meet the statutory test for physical blight, economic blight, and that the area wasn't predominantly urbanized. And as I recall from looking at the Navajo Community Plan, Superior Ready Mix is actually zoned as agricultural. So I think that lack of urbanization thing is probably legitimate. And also the mentions in here, the Attorney General, Senator Kehoe, when this Grantville money transfer came up, went to Jerry Brown for him to investigate. He came back with the fact, well, it's technically legal. And we know that through our lawyer. It's technically legal to send Grantville money to the trolley stop. The problem is sending it from the trolley stop to the county administration building. And in here, this document says that the AG noted that the settlement agreement might be construed as an effort to bypass legal restrictions on the use of redevelopment funds to settle litigation. And that's exactly the crux of our lawsuit. And SB 93, what this will do in the end is allow groups like ours, it won't allow us, but it'll allow other groups and other communities to challenge this finding that in this situation, the trolley improvement is a Grantville improvement. Right now, legally, that part can't be challenged. Now, the other thing, in the comment section on this analysis, it called the Grantville settlement agreement over the line. So it's just beyond the scope of what's acceptable here. It says if blight is the gateway to redevelopment, then how can local officials commit decades of property tax increment money to public works projects that don't eradicate physical and economic blight in the project area that generates the revenues? And that's a good question. So how blighted is Grantville if they're sending over 11% of the projected tax increment to downtown, and 11% of the tax increment that'd be available for improvements here? And that's based on Grantville over the lifespan of the redevelopment area generating over $600 million in tax increment. And that's becoming a very dubious figure with the recent economic downturn. But Grantville still has to send $31 million downtown, no matter what.
Is that, Brian, is that so much per year? Is that,
Yeah, they have
the way they work that out?
Yeah, the settlement agreement has a schedule laid out. So I don't remember what the figures are for each year. It increases every year, but if Grantville can't make a payment for 1 year, it rolls over to the next with interest. And the thing that we I think discussed in our legal meeting that one day, is that typically the interest on this is 10%. So it rolls over with 10% interest to the next year.
Well, the city can finally make a buck, huh?
Now, the other thing in this comments section here is that they have the title, More Sunlight, More Disinfectant. And it says, one criticism of the Grantville Settlement Agreement is that residents, property owners, and taxpayers had very little information about the agreement's terms before the officials acted, which is in fact the case. They were acting, and the only way I found out about this was one of the Union Tribune reporters called me to ask me if I had heard about it. And the answer, of course, was no. The Union Tribune reporter had been watching the CCDC agenda, and that's where this first showed up. So that's how we in Grantville found out about this, because somebody else was watching the CCDC agenda. And so one of the issues with SB 93 is, in effect, to put more sunshine and thereby disinfect this redevelopment process and how they throw money around.
How did CCDC get in the middle of this? It went to
Yeah, because the money goes to improve the C Street trolley line, so that's within the purview of
wouldn't that be for the
CCDC.
Metropolitan Transit District?
Well, there's our other potential funding source, because the Health and Safety Code says that in order for them to do these money transfers like this, they have to have no other reasonable way of funding the improvement. So, and I think the fact that CCDC can take the $31.4 million and send it right off to the county shows they already have a means of funding that trolley improvement. So if they have the capability of going ahead and sending the same money elsewhere. So anyway, that in the end is the crux of our legal argument. And I want to give a brief update on our lawsuit. And these are the things that we are working on. We had a meeting of the legal team about 2 months ago. Is that about right, Chuck?
Not too much.
Okay. And the discussion at that time was removing the Teschers from our lawsuit. I had a meeting with Phil Tescher and Leonard Tescher a couple of weeks before that. They wanted to talk to me about being removed from our lawsuit. Now, they brought up some valid points, and the points that carried water with us was the fact that the Teschers, in effect, were the first people to fight this redevelopment project. They carried the load for at least a couple of years before there was Grantville Action Group. I used some of the information the Teschers had from their fight to form the Grantville Action Group. And the other issue is, that carried weight with the legal team, that issue. But the other thing that I think is really important is they got on their own relief from eminent domain. One of the issues with the Grantville Action Group is to fight eminent domain abuse. We don't want to take that away from somebody else. They got relief from it. I think the fact that we're going to remove them from our lawsuit clarifies our purpose. I think it also makes it more likely that if this should go to appeal, and it probably will either way after this initial phase of the lawsuit, I think it makes it more likely that we'll have legal backup from Pacific Legal Foundation and or the Institute of Justice. And we've had contact with both of those organizations. So in the end, we're prepared to win this lawsuit. We expect the other side would want to appeal. We're prepared to back up that appeal. Let's see, other legal things coming up. There is a court hearing scheduled for Friday, March 27th, and this is to discuss the case and the litigation schedule. And Craig Sherman, the attorney, is going to make a conference call with the council to discuss preliminary matters, and then our side has to prepare an administrative record, which we're prepared to do that. Now, one thing that we are trying to get from the Teschers and their lawyer is a copy of the administrative record from the original Grantville lawsuit, so where the Teschers in the county sued the city to stop the redevelopment. Assuming we can get that, and this is